Creation. That is what we're going to finish up studying this week. We've already talked about God creating the world. We talked about the different things that God created on the different days of creation. Will you help me review that today? I'm going to say a number, and I want to see if you can remember and say out loud what God created on that day. On the first day of creation, do you remember what God created? He said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And he called the light day and the darkness night. Did you remember? Awesome. Day two. Do you remember what he created on the second day? He separated the waters and made the sky on day two. And when God made those things, he said, "It is good." Day three, we talked about our favorite fruits that we like to eat. Do you remember what God made on day three? Yes. He decorated the land with pretty trees and grass and flowers and all the fruit trees that we eat of, and even the carrot trees, like the plants for that, all sorts of things he decorated the earth with on day three. And again, when God saw it, he said, "It is good." Day four. On day four, he created, I can't actually remember if we did this online or not. Some of my times are kind of mixing up together. So we'll review if we did it, and if we didn't, you'll learn as we go today. Yes, he created, oh, we did talk about this, the lesser day, the lesser light by night, and the big bright light by day, and that was the sun and the moon. We did talk about that, didn't we, on day four? Day five is what we are on today. And on day five, let's find this, what God created in the story of, um, in the book of Genesis. We said that God's word is true and everything he tells us we can trust. And so on day five, God said this. Let me find it in my verse, in my Bible. It's on verse 20. Then God said, "Let the water," because remember there's the water there, but it was pretty bare and pretty empty. "Let the water be filled with living things, and let birds fly in the air above the earth." So God created the large sea animals. Can you think of a really large sea animal that God created on day five? Think of something really large. Okay, he created that on day five. If it lives in the sea and it's large, he created everything that moves in the sea. The large ones, like the manatees, and even the tiny ones, like the little maybe a baby starfish, or like I always think those little Nemo fish, right? He created those on day five. The sea was filled with those living creatures. Each one produces more of its kind. But that's not all that God created on day five. He said God also made every bird that flies, and each bird produces more of its kind. Kind of like the plants. Remember we said when we plant an orange tree, what will grow? Only oranges. That's right. So God made the birds in the sky, flamingos. What other kind of bird did he make that day? An eagle. What else? The parrot, right? God made all the birds that fly and all the animals in the ocean. But listen, he said each one produces more of its kind. So the flamingo will have baby flamingos, and that is it. Let's see, the shark will only have baby sharks. That's right. That's what it means when it says in the scripture, each one after its kind. And God said this, and each bird produced more of its own kind, and God saw that it was good, and God blessed them. And he said, "Have many babies and grow in number, and fill the water and the seas, and let the birds grow in number and have lots of babies to fill the earth." And evening passed and morning came, and that was the fifth day of creation. And then God said this, "Let the earth be filled with animals and let each produce more of its kind. Let there be tame animals. Can you think of a tame animal? A dog, a cat, lots of tame animals, but that's not all he made that day. He said, let there be tame animals and small crawling animals. Can you think of a small crawling animal? Little mice, maybe? And small crawling animals and wild animals. Can you think of a wild animal? Yeah, a tiger, a jaguar would probably be a wild animal, right? And let each produce more of its kind. And it happened just like he said it would. So God made the wild animals, the tame animals, and all the small crawling animals to produce more of their own kind. And when God saw them, he said, "It is good." So then God said something else. So I thought, well, that's great. I made this beautiful world and it is so good. And every animal produces its own kind. So the lions will have baby lions and the dogs will have puppies, right? And he wanted them to fill the world, but he did it for a purpose. He did it for people to enjoy. So he's going to make on the same day that he made the land animals, he made something else dear to his heart. And this is what he said. Then God said, let us make human beings in our image and likeness. And let the human beings rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air. And let them rule over the tame animals, over the earth, and over the small crawling animals on the earth. So that day, day 7, the same day he made all the land animals, the dinosaurs, right? The hippos. On that day, same day, he made man. He made humans, but he made them even more dear than the animals because he said, I'm going to make humans in my image. We think, we love, we feel because we are made in the likeness of God. He said, when God created male and female, and he blessed them, and he said, have many children, grow in number, and fill the earth, and be the ruler over the fish, and over the birds in the sky, and over all the things that live on the earth. And then God said, look, I gave you plants that you have grain for seeds, and I gave you trees with fruits on them, and they'll be food for you. I've given all the green plants for the animals to eat as well. They will be food for every wild animal. And it happened. And God, when he saw it, said, it is very good. Not just good, but when he saw people, he said, it is very good. Evening passed and morning came, and that was the 6th day of creation. So God made on the 6th day of creation, all the land animals, wild, tame, and small crawling animals, and everything in between. But he also made man and woman in his image on the 6th day of creation. So let's go ahead and watch this quick clip of a movie. I'm going to move my little thing up here a little bit so we don't get too much in the way of the video, that you can enjoy watching just a recap of what God created.
So part of God's story is about when he created the world. And it begins like this. Before the beginning of time, there was nothing. Nothing at all. No earth, no light, just emptiness. It was like the inside of a basketball, or a cup after you drink all the milk out of it. But God was there, and he had an idea. He wanted to fill up the emptiness. And guess what? Since he's God, he can make things appear just by speaking. It's like if you could say, let there be a roller coaster, and then any kind of roller coaster you wanted just appeared. So, in the middle of nothing, God said, let there be light, and the darkness was filled with light. Now, we know what light is, but remember, it had never existed before. Everything God made was brand new. So it was probably like when you're asleep, and someone comes in the room and flips on the lights. Except there were no people yet. God was creating a world for them first. Anyway, light was the first thing God made. He called the light day and the dark night. He made a huge space above water and called it sky. Then he gathered all the water, separated it from dry ground, and called it sea. He called the dry ground land. God called it all good. He thought what he had made was pretty sweet. But he wasn't done yet. All that land was still bare. So God made plants. Oak trees, palm trees, evergreen trees, grass, roses, sunflowers, and every other type of tree, bush, flower, or plant, including the ones we eat, like broccoli and Brussels sprouts. Then God looked at all the plants and called them good. Kids, that includes vegetables. After plants, God created the sun to shine all day and the moon to shine at night. He sprinkled twinkling balls of light in the sky and called them stars. And guess what? He called that stuff good too. Next, God filled the water with fish and whales and sharks and squid and every other sea creature. He filled the sky with flapping, chirping, squawking birds. And what do you think he called the fish and birds? Yep, good. Even though sometimes birds poop on our heads. Now there were fish and birds, but still nothing but plants on land. So God said, "Let there be animals." And animals of all kinds came crawling, scurrying, snorting, stomping, and racing across the dry ground. And just like everything else, God called the animals good. God was almost done, but he had one more thing to create that he had imagined from the very beginning when the earth was still empty. People. And he was going to love this creation more than anything else. See, the land and sky and animals and plants were beautiful, but none of them are as precious to God as we are. So finally, God created Adam. But God soon saw that Adam needed one more thing, a family. So God created Eve. And God's plan was for the two of them to have babies and live in this perfect world forever. No hunger, no sickness, no sadness, no loneliness, no dying. God took care of their every need like a loving father. It was perfect. God loved all his creation. Remember, he had called it all good. But when he looked at Adam and Eve and felt such a strong love for them, he called everything he had made very good. Then he rested to enjoy his perfect world. And that's the story of creation. So in case you missed it, here's the quick version. The earth was empty. God made light and dark. God made the sky and seas. God made plants and fish. God made birds and animals. He said all this stuff was good. Then he made Adam. Adam needed a family. So God made Eve. God called everything very good. Then God rested. And that's a part of God's story.
So I love the way she drew those pictures. Wasn't that a pretty cool video? I hope you enjoyed that. Tomorrow we're going to talk about a little bit more in the way that God created man in his image. We're going to go over our Bible verse tomorrow. So I'll see you then. Have a great day.